Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to Wellness Wednesday. We're so glad that you all are joining us today. My name is Daryl Moss and I'm here with my colleagues Stacy Hendry and Lucy Diana, and together we are the Synergy 3, and our mission is to spread vibrant health through group wellness programs that focus on the mind, body, and spirit. So today's topic on Wellness Wednesday is food and the microbiome. And the information I'm going to present today is general. It's not tied to anybody's specific health issues. And we hope that everybody will be able to take something away from today that they can be able to incorporate into their lives. So as Stacy mentioned, everybody is muted. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we will answer them shortly. Okay. So there's lots of research on the entire digestive tract and the microbiome. And this subject could probably cover a semester program at a minimum. So today I'm just going to touch on some really important areas that I think we all should understand, especially, basically regarding food. The intense study of the microbiome is relatively new and discoveries are being made all the time. I mean, it's a really, really fascinating field of research. So it might be useful to start with actually describing what the microbiome is. So as the Harvard School of Public Health defines it, it's the community of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and sometimes parasites that can live inside of us and on us. And they all need to live together in a state of balance. So what some people consider a toxic bacteria, which is toxic, like E. coli, might live in peace inside of us with all sorts of other kinds of bacteria. The problem is when different bacteria get out of balance with each other. So the microbiome we're talking about today is in our digestive tract. There are microbiomes in all different parts of our body, including on our skin. And we have way more genes in the microbiome than we do in our bodies as humans, in the human genome. So we might be considered more bacteria than human. So what does the gut microbiome do? The microbiome is part of the digestive process. And the bacteria contained in the digestive tract help us break down food, and they make some vitamins, they make neurotransmitters, and they help regulate our immune system, as most of our immune system is housed in the gut. And there are also several other vital functions that these bacteria perform. And all of them are vital to our overall levels of health. And one of the really amazing things about the human body, which is a really finely tuned machine, is that the lining of our intestines, called the epithelial lining, is only 1 cell thick, and it's housed in a mucosal layer. So in that very, very narrow part of our bodies, magic happens in terms of keeping us well or maybe not keeping us so well. And I don't want to get into a biology lesson here, but I just want to make the point again that this is such an important area of our bodies to focus on. And it's really, really, really recent that conversation is even happening. So, for those of you who read the science section of the Times or the Journal or lots of medical information, there's more and more information coming out every day. It's really fascinating. So a lot is happening down there, especially in our large intestine, and we need this lining and the mucosal layer to be strong. We need to have tight junctions in the villi, which are like these microscopic sized hairs that line our intestines, and we need the right nutrients to keep that happening, to keep the junctions tight, is what I mean. And what can happen on the negative side is if those junctions aren't really tight, microscopic sized pieces of food can get out of our digestive tract and into our bloodstream. And our body will recognize those as foreign invaders, and that can start a whole downstream process. So if you think about it, the digestive tract is like a hose. It runs from our mouth all the way through our bodies to the anus. And nothing is supposed to get out of that except for the fully digested, broken down proteins, vitamins, nutrients, et cetera, that our body either got from our food or has been manufactured by the bacteria. It's when other stuff gets out that we have a problem. So the bacteria work with each other to make all those vitamins, neurotransmitters, et cetera. And that they also help us to get rid of toxins. And again, the problem is when there's something that's out of balance or things that are out of balance. And why is this not turning to the next slide? Oh my goodness. Hold on one second. I don't know why this isn't going to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Well, so there's several ways that our bacteria can get out of balance, or anything else in our digestive tract get out of balance. And when that happens, we're going to have a whole host of downstream problems. So the big three areas that are going to impact the balance in our digestive tract are food, especially crappy food, toxins, and stress. So this is a long conversation, and today we're basically going to be talking about food. And in future conversations, we can address some of the other issues. Oh, I don't know what is going on here today. Hold on one second. There we go. So junk food, processed food, and refined foods are such a huge part of the standard American diet. And these, other than the taste, if you like them, do absolutely nothing for our bodies. And all of the chemicals and the food dyes included in the manufacturing process of these foods are not nutrient giving. And the process that starts with the whole food, like a potato or a kernel of corn or cherries to make cherry candy, whatever, all the refining processes that the food goes through basically take out the fiber and all of the nutrients that were there in the real food. And so our bodies don't think that they're being fed. They don't recognize these things as real food, and they react to them negatively. We need food, we need the nutrients from our real food to feed our microbiome. And we at the Synergy 3 firmly believe that food is our medicine. And crap food does not fall into that category. So these junk and highly processed and highly refined foods are often full of really unhealthy fats. They're high in sugar. They have no fiber in them. And they have none of the original nutrients that were there in the real food when it was growing. And none of this feeds our good bacteria. And remember, we need our good bacteria to do some really important things inside of our bodies. Our immune systems also don't recognize this stuff as real food. And our immune system is housed in our digestive tract for the most part. So this combination is inflammatory, and long-term eating this kind of diet can lead to obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and a whole host of other health problems, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. And studies, what's interesting is that studies that have been done on mice and in humans have shown that when you eat this kind of diet for a long period of time, it very quickly can change the balance in our digestive tract. And on the other hand, switching to a whole food-based, varied, nutrient-rich diet can start turning things around pretty quickly. And it's not only food that can impact our digestive system, it's alcohol as well. And I don't know why this isn't switching. I don't know what's going on with this today. There we go. Alcohol not only impacts our brains, but it also changes the composition of the microbiome. And it can also increase the permeability of the gut barrier. And remember, that's a really thin layer, and we need to have it strong, and we need to have it tight. So I know we're not talking about toxins today, but I just wanted to mention pesticides really briefly, because most conventionally grown foods are sprayed with pesticides, and whatever goes on that food is generally going in our bodies. There are very few plant foods that actually, through washing or peeling, totally eliminate the pesticides on them. And pesticides are toxic to our bodies. So the choices that we make if we're not eating a healthy diet and we're under undue stress and we have a lot of toxic overload are leading to a negative impact on the rest of the body. And a lot, this can turn into leaky gut, which is intestinal permeability, and a lot of other things that we might not consider, such as candida, which is a yeast overgrowth. And yeast overgrowth can happen in different areas of our body. It can lead to downstream problems such as autoimmune disease. And there's a huge rise in autoimmune disease compared to what people were experiencing many years ago. It can lead to poor nutrient absorption, especially if you have chronic diarrhea, because then your body doesn't have time to absorb the nutrients that come from the food. Poor nutrient absorption then can lead to other problems like thyroid problems. It can lead to bone health problems, again, because you're not getting all of the nutrients from the food that you need, especially calcium. And another issue, and last time I presented, we talked about osteoporosis, is that bone health can also be damaged by not being able to get enough calcium just by the dysbiosis in the bacteria. It can lead to chronic constipation. And if you have chronic constipation, you might not be able to be excreting toxins from your body, and that can lead to other issues. Again, I talked about diarrhea and poor nutrient absorption. A lot of people's skin conditions are directly related to what's going on or not happening correctly in their digestive tract. It can lead to SIBO, which stands for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And that's when bacteria migrate the wrong way from our large intestine back upstream to our small intestine where they're not supposed to be. It can lead to allergies. Dysbiosis can lead to food sensitivities. It can lead to psychological issues, and it can lead to obesity and type 2 diabetes, which are rampant in the country right now. And certain types of bacterial imbalances have actually been shown to correlate with obesity. So one thing to remember is that symptoms of oh my God, sorry. I apologize. Symptoms of dysbiosis are not always easy to recognize, and we all need to understand that our bodies talk to us. They just don't speak to us in English or whatever our negative tongue is. So if you have chronic diarrhea, if you have constipation, if you have a rash that doesn't go away, if you're breaking out after eating certain foods, if your meals are giving you acid reflux, if anything, if you have neurological disorders, really everything that's going on with you, if you don't feel that something's completely right and your doctor can't figure it out, it's quite possible that there's something going on in your digestive tract, because almost everything that happens in the body starts with our digestion. So these are the kind of things that you might want to discuss with your healthcare practitioner. So let's talk about what we can do in terms of healing our digestive systems or keeping them strong. So as we talk about food, remember that I'm presenting general information. This is not for anybody with a diagnosed or suspected disease, but again, you can discuss this, with your healthcare practitioner. So everyone is different, and depending on what's going on in our digestive tracts, we may or may not be ready for specific foods or supplements. And lastly, speaking from my personal experience, and as well as that of many of my clients, we're on a journey, and dietary change for the better might be more restrictive at one point and less restrictive at another point, because as we heal, then hopefully we'll be able to bring more things back into our systems that we might not have been eating for a while. And if we take medications or if we take supplements, those also might change as our body heals. So when we talk about eating, we're not only talking about what we put in our bodies, but we talk about how we put it in our bodies. And we're really big on what we call eating hygiene, which has nothing to do with washing your hands before you eat or washing your food, when you bring it home from the market, because I'm sure everybody's doing that. But we're talking about eating mindfully. We're talking about chewing really, really well so that we are swallowing food that's already been basically emulsified, because digestion does start in our mouths. We're talking about eating in a stress-free environment if possible. We're talking about eating mindfully, not shoving the food in our mouths. And we're talking about making mindful food choices as well. All of those are really important. Another thing that's really important about how we eat is that it's important that we eat meals and maybe a couple snacks during the day if we need them, but not grazing all day, because we need our stomachs to be able to empty fully before the next food load comes down into our stomachs. That's how our digestive system works. If we're constantly putting food in all the time, it overloads the system and it doesn't work the way it was designed. So we really believe in eating a whole food-based diet. And that means eating foods in as close to their original form as possible. We believe that food is thy medicine, and food is always our first go-to in all of our programs, as well as in our one-on-one work that we do with our clients. So it doesn't matter what kind of diet that you follow, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, carnivore, whatever. We believe in eating a whole food-based diet, which means you're eating food in as close to its original form as possible, limiting the process. So if you're eating grains, obviously there's some process going on, but for everything else, we really want people eating the food in as close to its original form, because that's where you're getting the most exposure to the nutrients, the phytochemicals, all the little things that are in the food that we're eating. We also want to eat pre and probiotic rich foods. So that can be confusing. And the difference is that prebiotics are the foods that are feeding the healthy bacteria in our gut. And these foods are mostly coming from fibers that we as humans are not digesting, but the bacteria, which are way more than us in our digestive tract, that's what they're digesting. So some of these fibers, some of these soluble fibers will help you stay feeling full longer. So if you're concerned about a weight loss program and not eating tons of food all the time, eating these foods are going to help you stay full longer. So just as a few examples, prebiotics are found in apples, artichokes, legumes, many grains, dark leafy greens, onions, etc. Resistant starch is also a soluble fiber. And what's really important is that polyphenols are also prebiotics. So polyphenols are these chemicals that are found in all different colored fruits and vegetables, and they work together to produce all sorts of vitamins and nutrients for our bodies. And there's new research, just like on the microbiome, on polyphenols and how they work with each other. Lucy talked about this last week in her presentation. And we're learning more and more about these prebiotics, about these polyphenols every single day. But it's important that we eat lots of different colors every day in our diets. Insoluble fiber doesn't have the same prebiotic value, but it's very important for other issues in our bodies. It helps attracting water to the stool. It helps with elimination and regularity. So both of them have very important jobs to do inside of our guts. So examples are cauliflower, green beans, potatoes. Again, these are foods from the plant kingdom. What the probiotics do is that they're basically providing the good bacteria in our guts. So supplementation can often be really helpful, but all probiotic supplements are not the same. Number one, they're not the same quality and they don't have the same strains. So the best way to supplement is to really do something targeted where you're giving your body, if you have something that's going on with you, the best way to supplement is to be giving your body exactly what it's looking for and what it needs. So eating fermented foods is also really helpful in providing probiotics to your body. Hold on one second. So fermented foods could be kimchi, natto, kombucha. I'm sorry, this isn't going forward. I apologize. Well, this is not, I don't know what's going on with the PowerPoint today. I apologize, everybody.
Again, Daryl, hit the screen. See if you hit the screen instead of the button. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. So this is a bowl of kimchi. So kimchi is fermented vegetables. It's a staple of Korean cuisine, but all sorts of fermented vegetables are wonderful. The difference, and you can get pickles, green beans, really carrots, anything can be pickled and fermented. If you go to the grocery store, you want to make sure that you're not buying just like the store brand pickles or Vlasic pickles or something. You want something pickled in the lacto fermented process, and things will be marked that way. But these are really important in providing your body probiotics naturally without having to supplement. There are other things within our bodies that are very important in helping with the bacterial balance and being able to actually have enough probiotics there, and that includes our digestive juices in our stomach, our digestive enzymes, the amount of bile we have. As we grow older, sometimes our bodies don't produce as much of those substances, and we might need to supplement there as well. Again, that's something to discuss between you and your healthcare practitioner, or with a health coach like one of us, if you wanted to work with one of us. So I'm going to open this up for questions in a minute. I just want to touch really briefly about vitamins. So vitamin D is really, really crucial in maintaining a strong intestinal barrier and a strong, allowing your digestive system to work well. Most people who live in the Northern Hemisphere tend to be low in vitamin D because we can't get it from the sun all year round. So that's a very, very important vitamin to discuss with your doctor when you get your blood work done. And other vitamins are A, D, and zinc, which are very important for your digestive tract. So I'm going to open this up for questions in a minute. But before I do, I just want to let everyone know that we're in the second week of our 8-week Slim Possible Weight Loss Challenge right now. The program is going incredibly well. And we are thrilled to be working with these amazing people who have joined us. Next week, we're going to be talking about more of our favorite kitchen tools. So please join us. And I'm going to put up, this is our contact information if anybody has more questions. And I'm going to open this up to Stacy. So I can't see the chat through this. So if you guys want to read the questions, I'm happy to answer, or we can all chime in.
There's no questions right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Open it up for questions.
Oh, Nancy has a question. Nancy, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. So I'm wondering about how quinoa is in terms of being good for you. And also, as somebody who's had acute diverticulitis, I worry that quinoa might be one of those things that gets stuck, like a seed.
I get it. So quinoa is a seed, it's not a grain.
Yeah.
So for someone with who's been in your situation, then I think you need to be careful with that.
Right.
I know you know this, Nancy, but for other people out there, there are different theories in the GI medical world about what people can eat and what people can't eat in a diverticulitis and diverticulosis situation and post those situations.
Right.
So people need to discuss that with their doctor. Quinoa, separate from those kinds of issues, is a complete protein. It's really nourishing. It's very versatile. And if you're not eating meat, it's a great way to get protein into your body. And protein is essential for so many functions in our bodies. But for people with diverticulitis or diverticulosis, I personally am very conservative, and I would be very careful with that. It's also a lot of times, especially if you go to a restaurant, you'll get toasted quinoa sprinkled on a salad or something to add a little bit of a crunch, and that's even tinier.
Yeah.
So it's something you need to be mindful of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. Any other questions out there?
Well, I have so many.
Well, Nancy,
I'm happy to keep this going.
Well, does anyone else have a question? Just unmute.
I have a question.
Mona?
My daughter has a lot of problems with allergies, and she does have stomach issues as well. She's given up dairy because she found that causes her a lot of difficulties, and she has improved dramatically since then, but she's not completely there yet. And I'm just wondering, she does eat French fries, she does eat a lot of chocolate and cookies. She's in law school, very stressed out. And I'm wondering if she needs to go through more elimination in order to figure out, she's probably missing something else that she's allergic to. But she has to go through some kind of, and there's no easy way to find out, right? There's no way to begin this.
So Mona, that's a great question, and my heart goes out to your daughter. I can't imagine the stress being in law school right now with everything else going on. So stress alone is really tough on the microbiome, number one. Number two, she can certainly do an elimination diet, and we run elimination diet programs periodically our last one was done in January. Through
Yeah,
our
I'm hoping you have something mid-July after the bar exam, because then she'll have 6 weeks free.
Okay, great. Well, we'll keep that in mind. Or if we don't have a group program, she can certainly talk to one of us privately. So doing an elimination diet is a great way to figure out the really big culprits, but we can't, when anyone doing an elimination diet, whether it's our program or any other program, you can't take everything out because you'd starve. So
Right.
there certainly are food sensitivity tests that people can do, which are terrific, but nothing isn't the truest test is taking the food out of your.
She went through that. She did a blood test and she did one of those back things. So she has a report on what her sensitivities are according to those tests.
That's great. So it's important to be mindful, and whatever showed up as highly reactive needs to come out for probably 6 weeks. And the other thing is, if she's eating lots of French fries and stuff, she's not, there was a picture of that, right?
Yeah, but when you're studying at midnight, she goes, I just need something. She'll call and have something delivered, and it's just like, what are you eating?
It's hard. It's hard. If she could just stock her refrigerator with healthy food, and get, through a food service, because what happens is when we're starving, that's when we make bad choices, because we just don't, nobody's going to start scrubbing carrots, right? At 1 o'clock in the morning. But if you've got stuff in the fridge, it's easier to make a healthy choice. But good for her for going off dairy, because that's usually a really big one.
Okay.
Daryl, can I just say one thing to that? So if she had the, sensitivity tests and all that, when there's that kind of, dynamic in the gut, Daryl mentioned leaky gut syndrome, okay, which we can have a webinar on that alone, and we'll make a point of that. But initially, when you do the test before any healing goes on, you could be allergic to everything under the sun, because that little thin layer could be so open, the junctions could be open, that everything is coming through. So in other words, as Daryl mentioned, we would have to give up all those foods, and it wouldn't be a completely accurate test.
Okay.
So really important to get gut healing started.
Okay.
And then maybe go back and take that test again in
Okay.
2 or 3 months after.
Okay.
Okay, Mona? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? We'll go back to Nancy.
Nancy, we have time for one more question.
One more. Okay. What about chocolate? Because the literature is so mixed. Some people say, yes, have a square of dark chocolate every day, and you're doing some good for yourself. And I like that approach. And so I'm wondering if I'm actually hurting myself by having like a handful of dark chocolate covered almonds regularly.
So Nancy, you are always full of wonderful questions, and I really appreciate that. So remember, for everybody, each one of us is different. We have our own bodies, we have our own immune systems, we have our own sensitivities. In general, very dark chocolate can be, in small quantities, can be incredibly good for you, because it's full of antioxidants and all sorts of wonderful, wonderful nutrients that our bodies need, but again, in small quantities. So if you're buying dark chocolate at the grocery store or at any market, it's labeled with the percentage of cacao. So the higher the percentage, the less sugar and the less dairy. So you got to read the labels. And what Hershey's might consider dark chocolate and what another brand might consider dark chocolate in terms of a bar might not be the same. So you got to read labels. And some people handle chocolate well, and other people are really sensitive to chocolate. So it's testing your body and seeing how you react.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Sally.
I have a question. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, well, number one, Nancy, try bark. It's wonderful. You can get it in the grocery store. It's dark chocolate, and I take a piece or two every day.
Sally,
So
I'm
it's
totally
good.
addicted to the chocolate covered almond thing. I'm going to have to call Daryl separately about it. Just saying.
Okay, because the bark also has almonds. I want to know, where do you buy fermented foods?
That's a great question. So you can buy fermented foods at Whole Foods. You can buy them at a farmer's market where the farmers in the summer will have fermented their own produce. You can buy it at any health food store. But if
But
you
how
go,
do you buy it?
it's generally in the refrigerated section.
Oh, okay.
Not always, but generally, I would say.
And what does it say? Fermented
Yeah, like if you go to,
vegetables or whatever?
right, if you go to an Asian store, there'll be a whole selection of kimchis. If you
Oh,
go to Whole Foods, there'll be different kinds of pickles, and they might have dilly beans or something else.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mrs. Green's, if you guys live near Mrs. Green's, will have them. So thank you guys for joining us today. We hope to see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Good to
Thank
see you.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Tell me about those